on that Think Beyond question. But you have to admit, it was pretty basic. So now I want you to choose a more advanced question to do the same thing with, but this time you're going to write about it in your journal. Check in the folders. You should find some Think Beyond cards, and there's 4 levels. And yeah, they do get more advanced the higher the number. I want you to read through each of these Think Beyond cards. Read all 4 of them and see what the highest level of question you think you can answer. And when you've chosen it, you only need to do one of them. You're going to read it again carefully and then write which card you chose. Let's say the highest level you could do was level 3. So you would write in your journal, Think Beyond 3, and this is the marble crash test Think Beyond questions. And I got that from the bottom of these cards right here. Now, do the same thing in your journal that you did with the Think Beyond question. Answer the question using as much math talk as you can. Be thorough.
So, let's review. In the last lesson, you got to be a safety inspector and conduct some crash tests with marbles. And you learned a lot about measurement. We used inches and the half inches. Now we're going to move on a little bit to another lesson where we're going to think about child safety seats. It's car seats. I'm sure you have sat in one at one time or another, and it's the law. So you should be really familiar with car seats and child safety seats. We're going to think about the requirements for these seats and the safety of them, and think about how the requirements might change according to the size of the child. You know, when you're super tiny baby, you have a different kind of safety requirement in a car seat than maybe when you're 7 or 8. We're going to, instead of using inch and half inches, we're going to be using centimeters to measure egg passengers, to prepare some safety experiments that we're going to do in the next lesson. Sounds fun, eh?
Good news. I got a message from Drew and Teller. Seems they received our observations from the last marble crash tests. So I thought I'd read to you what they had to say and see if they have another challenge for us. Here it is from the detective duo in the Kalahari Desert in the Republic of Botswana. To the student mathematicians, that's you, from Drew and Teller. Dear student mathematicians, how are you? Your ideas about the marble crash tests were so helpful. We now understand that we will have more half inches than inches when we measure. We bought a fabulous new car that we think will be much safer. Because we are so tiny, we need to use car seats so we can be extra safe. Before we buy any new car seats, though, we need to figure out if we will fit in them. We need your help to figure this out. Your teacher told us you get to design car seats for egg passengers. But first, you need to figure out the measurements of the eggs. That sounds like so much fun. You are so lucky. We are looking forward to hearing how much you measured the eggs and how you made good guesses about their sizes. What you learn will help us find the measurements for our seats. We can't wait to hear from you all again. Hope you have a blast. Drew and Teller, the detective duo. So let's take a look at a centimeter. If we're going to be measuring the eggs with centimeters, we need to really understand what exactly a centimeter is. The word part centi means 100. These centimeters are tiny. I think they're fun to play with.
you look at them next to things that you're familiar with, it kind of gives you an idea how small they are. So, if you're looking at one of these cubes, where is the centimeter on the cube? Is it that whole face there? Is it the corner? It's important to know that the length of the centimeter is one of these edges. One of these sides is centimeter length. So, is there anything on your body that is the length of a centimeter? Check it out right now. Use your hand and see if you can find anything that's the same length as that, the length of one side. I like to look at my pinky fingernail, and at the very edge of my pinky fingernail, it's hard to show you this, it's about the size of a centimeter. Now, my hands are a little bigger than yours, and your centimeter might be the same size as one of your other fingers' nail. But if you can think about the size of the nail on your hand, the width of it, you'll always have a nice way to estimate or measure in centimeters without having to have a ruler. I think that's kind of cool. Now, on a regular ruler, a lot of times they've got inches on one side and centimeters on the other, and sometimes that gets confusing for kids. But you can see that, let's use this orange one, between the 5 and the 6 there is 1 centimeter. That's hard to see. That's a centimeter between the 4 and the 5. Are centimeters smaller or bigger than inches? Yeah, smaller. Is it closer to a 1/2 inch? Or is it closer to an inch? A 1/2 inch is just a little bit bigger than a centimeter. There's a centimeter. And it doesn't quite make it to the 1/2 inch mark. So that's how centimeters compare to inches. So now if you'll find this page in the folders or your workbook called Centimeter Seatbelts, it's page 21. And let's think about measuring these seatbelts. The directions say, help us measure these seatbelts to the nearest centimeters, which means we're going to use whole numbers. Even if you think it's a 1/2 centimeters, we're not going to write any fractions. So we would only decide whether it's closer to 1 whole centimeter or the other. So look at number 1. Here's the number 1 seatbelt. And we can either use a centimeter ruler or some centimeter cubes to measure. Now, if you're going to use the ruler, it's important to remember that you don't necessarily start measuring always at the very beginning of the ruler. And rulers can be different. There's a little notch where it starts, and I want to put my ruler there. And I don't know if you can see, but according to this ruler, it's that many centimeters. You do it yourself. I don't want to give you the answer. Let's check it with these cubes. How many cubes? It's all the way up to the brown one, so I'm going to take the other ones off. Now it's the same size.
And when I have it exactly the same size, I can count the blocks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's what you'd write here. Now, you'll do that for all of the seat belts on this page. And the next page, there's another one that has number 5, 6, 7, that has 5, 6, and 7. They're a little bit longer. So you want to think about how to measure each of these. Now let's say that the measurement doesn't match exactly, that it's right in the middle of maybe 10 or 11 centimeters. In that case, you really need to determine which it's closer to. Is it closer to the 10 or is it closer to the 11? You're finding the nearest centimeter. So good luck on measuring those, and let's get some good practice in so we can be ready to measure our egg passengers. Pause this video while you finish measuring those 2 pages. All right, so I want you to remember the information we got from our marble crash test that we did in the previous lesson. Now, you need to know that that experience was only the beginning of the safety report that we're building for the detective duo. And now we're going to think about the size of the passenger and the best way to protect someone traveling in a car that might crash. Seatbelts are one of the best ways to protect people when they're in a car. In fact, there are many laws that dictate the use of seatbelts. The safety rules for young children who ride in a car are very specific. Let's look at this graphic I have from the AAP, the Consumer Reports rating system for infant car seats. I found this online, and I want you to look at this chart and especially look at the column that says nothing but pass results. The law requires that all car seats for infants and older children must pass all the crash tests with good protection for children before they can even sell those car seats. Also, children who are a certain size, usually depending on their age and their weight, have to have certain kinds of seats and seat belts. So let's look at this table. As you look at those numbers, which car seat do you think is the best one to buy? And how did you figure it out? Take a minute and answer that question in your math journal. Be sure to explain your thinking. I noticed that the Chico key fit has A, which in the key says excellent, on both. So would that be the one you would want to buy? How much money would you save if you were buying the Baby Trend Flex Lock instead of the Chico Key Fit? Baby Trend Flex Lock is $90, while the Chico Key Fit is $160. So it's 90 versus 160. You're going to have to do a little math problem here. What should you do with those numbers? And tell me how much money you would save. And then think about, is it worth saving the money to buy the car seat that has a lower safety rating? And think about that, and maybe that might change the answer that you wrote above. And you might want to add to your answer and think about price in addition to the safety rating.